Something else that was said at the training that we took part in January is the statement, "It's not worth it." Missionaries who came off the field talking to a room full of missionaries, and they said, "It's not worth it. Jesus is worth it." And so you have to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus the entire time, and you have to know that your call is from him, and that the reason you're going is you're being obedient. So my name is Jonathan Johnson. I am stepping into ministry with Josiah Venture in Eastern Europe, in Latvia. I've been serving in different youth capacities, youth ministry capacities over the last couple of years. Part of what led me to become a missionary is my grandparents were missionaries overseas in East Africa. Before I was born, my mom grew up over there, and then they moved back to Toronto and started ministering among the Somali people in Toronto. And I grew up visiting them on a regular basis a couple times a year. So when we'd go visit the local Somali restaurant. I'd hear my grandpa order in Somali what we were eating for dinner. I called my grandpa Awowe, which was grandpa in Somali, and my grandma Yayo. So I grew up around different languages and around overseas ministry. Then freshman year of high school, someone gave me the passage, 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23, where Paul talks about, "Though I am a free man and a slave to no one, I make myself a slave to everyone, that I might win some." And that passage really stuck with me and was one of the key pieces of planting a seed in my heart of what does it look like to step into a different culture and to begin to learn their culture and become like them in a way that they can hear and see and understand the gospel in a way that really catches them, and to see the hope of Jesus. And then I spent a semester in Eastern Europe and saw Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Russia, visited all of those countries, saw a ton of the history and a ton of the scars that those countries and those cultures bear because of their time under the Soviet Union, and really fell in love with the people and with their need and felt their need. I'm headed over to Latvia with an organization called Josiah Venture. Fell in love with Josiah Venture because of who they are, because of their vision, to see a movement of God among the youth of Central and Eastern Europe that finds its home in the local church and transforms society. The youth are the next generation. We need to raise up young leaders to lead the church in the future, because we're not going to be around forever. And so we're always training up the next generation. That's also when they're the most impressionable. And the most ready to learn and to listen and to change. And then the other statement is that finds its home in the local church. And that was really big for me, because I didn't want to join an organization that's going in, doing our own work, and then if we pull out for one reason or another, that work falls apart. Their focus is on equipping and training up the local believers to do the work, so that way when the Lord calls us away as second culture missionaries, he often does at one point or another, the work continues even after we've left. One of the biggest challenges of pursuing God in this process, I think, has been waiting for his time, waiting on his timeline, and acknowledging that it's not my own. Had I had my way, I would have left. This is March of 2023. I would have left at the latest December of 2022, if not quite a bit earlier. But the Lord had other plans. He's continued to have other things for me and other reasons, as I've seen now on the post end of it, reasons why I needed to be here, still in the States, as much as I would have loved to have been on the field already. But I also know that I've had to learn in this process that his timing is perfect, and my job is to follow him and be obedient and say, "Yes, Lord, I will go where you call me," and then hold everything that I desire with open hands in front of me and say, "Lord, these are my desires. I'm going to place them in your hands and know that you will provide for me what I need when I need it, and I need to rest with that." I'm in a Bible study Monday night. We talked about Jeremiah and his story and the cost of discipleship and the cost of following Jesus, and that's true when you're just walking through life. And when you're in ministry, it's almost more true when you're in ministry and pursuing the call that God's placed on your life, because then Satan's looking at you, the devil's looking at you going, "Okay, I'm going to do everything I can to discourage them from following what God's calling them to, because I know that if they step into what God's calling them to, they're going to be effective for the work of God and the kingdom of God. And I don't want that. So we're going to discourage them. And so through this process, not only have I had to learn with open hands of like, Lord, it's your timing, not my own. I've also had to wrestle through discouragement and continually wrestle with God and make sure that I am listening to and following his call in my life and not my own desires. When you step into a process of pursuing the Lord, it has to be his call. Otherwise, you're really going to struggle when you hit those walls of discouragement. What would I tell others about following God? I think I would tell people who want to follow Jesus and who want to be in a relationship with him to not expect a cakewalk. To not step in and go, oh, I'm going to follow Jesus. This is going to be the greatest. It's going to be the easiest thing ever. It is great, but it's not easy. It is great and it is a blessing, but there's a lot of struggle that comes with it. And there's a lot of trials with it. So I would echo Romans 5, Paul in Romans 5, 3-5, where he says, we delight in our suffering because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame. And that, I think I would echo that and say, really wrestle with the suffering and find delight in it and keep going through it. I think the way that people can pray for me right now is that I would continue to be open to what he has to do in my life, and that I would continue to be open to where he's calling me to speak and where he's calling me to be quiet, that I may speak only what he has for me and what he has for those around me, instead of what I think or what I want or what I desire, because ultimately that doesn't mean anything compared to what he has.